This conference will now be recorded.
Trying to get settled down.
You stay out of my business. I can't wait 10 years and a half. That's all. There's no here that can be that fast.
Well, no, for,
Jimmy, maybe I'll just try it without 4 questions.
crazy. All right, let's do the pledge. So we can go.
Yeah.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Doug. Perfect. Doug, I couldn't remember if I sent you how to get into the meeting.
No job.
Oh, yeah, no Charles. That's here. Tracy's online.
Tracy,
Jeff's online.
Robin.
Laura's online.
I think I got everybody.
Where?
Nope.
Laura there?
Yeah, turn the bottom or the middle.
Oh, okay. She's incognito. Hey, Laura.
All right, our first section, as always, is public comment. Have any public comment? Peter?
I'd like to speak if I may.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, for the record, I'm Peter Gordon, and the cuckoo clock behind me is there to make sure I don't run on. Tonight, I'm representing the Friends of Owego Evergreen Cemetery, and we'd like the board's permission to hold a fundraising event in Marvin Park. And the plan is to have it from 10 to 4 in the afternoon on July 10 and 11, July 24 and 25, August 7 and 8, and 21 and 22. I built an 18-hole cornhole golf course. Fran helped sew 160 cornhole bags. We got 150 pounds of corn from Ward and Van Scoy. And the Fair Board has let us store the board panels under the grandstand. And we would set it up on the north of the parking lot by the skate park east of the Owego Creek. And the idea is to ask for a $5 donation for individuals for 18 holes and $10 for families. And all the money would go to support Evergreen Cemetery projects. And if the board agrees this use might be acceptable, then Meg has the paperwork, and we're insured. We'll deliver an insurance binder to Rod to cover the events.
I think it's a pretty cool idea. As long as DPW doesn't have an issue with the dates.
No,
Peter,
we're good to go.
Peter, could you tell us the dates again?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Tell the dates again.
Okay, it's July 10 and 11, July 24 and 25. These are Saturday and Sundays. August 7 and 8, and 21 and 22. And I know there's some overlap with the Firemen's Convention.
Yeah, the 10th and the 11th are firemen's convention days.
But Are they, I don't know if there's a conflict in Marvin Park.
No, there's nothing in Marvin Park.
No, there's not.
Well, when I read Peter's email on that, I suggested that maybe he speak with the firemen about co-opting with the block party on Talcott Street on Saturday.
That, I mean, that would be great, but it's a big move. You know, I don't have a pickup, and the 18 plywood panels, it's pretty heavy. And that's why it's so great that the Fair Board let us put it in the under the grandstands.
18 pieces of plywood, that's expensive these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rusty?
It's probably, it has some value. It's probably not a good idea to put this together with the firemen and the convention. That there's so much going on, I would think that that's just, as nice as it is, I doubt that would be a great idea.
And the block party's Friday night.
Yeah, it's a pretty tight schedule. It's a good idea.
It's the idea of doing
Tell
things,
them sooner, we probably could have done.
the idea of doing things in conjunction with each other is not a bad idea, but this is a pretty well planned out full thing.
I don't know where you put it over there on Celtic.
Yeah, and there's gonna be a lot going on over there with the fire, with the races and et cetera, et cetera. Just, that's probably not the best time for that.
Well, we can be flexible with the dates.
Well, there's nothing going on in Marvin Park, so.
No, Peter, there was talk here of you doing something in conjunction with the fire department on Talcott Street on that Friday night, and we're saying that's probably not the best idea. That's not your dates at the park.
Yeah, that would be outside of the date.
It's just a big, it takes a lot of room and it's very heavy.
Yeah.
I have no objection. I just, there's a logistical issue.
So anything on
I think the park's a good place. Yeah, do we want to make a motion to let them use the park those dates? I mean, Jeff says he's good with it.
I'd like to make the motion. Hi, I'd like to make the motion for the Friends of the Evergreen Cemetery to be able to use the Marvin Park section for their fundraiser between the hours of 10 and 4 on the listed dates. Saturdays and Sundays, they were
We have the dates.
and that we waive any of the fees, the park fees, because it's a fundraiser for a village benefit. And waive the fees for all the days, and offer any further assistance that you need for your fundraiser.
I'll second that.
I'm willing to take out further assistance.
All right. So we'll vote on that quick. Ron,
Yes.
Rusty,
Yes.
Fran,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
and Laura,
Yes.
and yes. Did I miss anybody? All right, Charles and Harper. All right, you guys
Thank
are
you
good
so
to go.
much.
Good job.
I also emailed you all the final draft of the signs for Evergreen that we had proposed earlier, so you can look them over and see if there are any issues. We've raised about $1,800 of the $3,000 cost to put the signs by the mortuary chapel and by the caretaker's cottage. And I showed it to Mike today, and I have to talk to Jeff about this, the details, and we'll come back to the board before the final installation. But we'd like, John Pidco from Anything Artistic is going to do the sign, so he knows all the code issues. And I talked to Mike Howe about taking down the sign that Rusty called the map with the bullet holes in it. And putting the green neon park rules against the caretaker's cottage. We can do that when we install the signs, pending the board's final approval of the signs.
Okay,
Thank you.
anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, anybody else for public comment? We got Nadine, I don't know. Nadine, I saw you join. Did you want to say anything or? Are you good?
No, I'm just listening. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so if there aren't more public comment, we'll move on. First, I invited Doug Kameen to give us a little presentation on IT shared services. This is something we talked about, oh God, 2 years ago, and we're getting around to it now, so. Okay, Doug.
All right. Hi, everybody. Doug Kameen, the IT director, CIO over at the county. We're revisiting, coming back and revisiting the discussion about the Village of Owego coming into the county's shared services arrangement for IT services. This was something that we had discussed previously in 2018. And at the time, we were still in the process of planning, building the new Village Hall building. And through that discussion, it was decided that it would be better that as that building got closer to construction, everybody was generally in agreement with the idea of shared services and coming into the arrangement. But the timing would probably be better if it was like a year later or so when the building was further along. And then of course, the building was delayed a little bit, then COVID happened. And therefore now we're 2.5 years later in having the discussion. But since then, a lot has changed. Positive, I guess, things have happened. I guess it's not necessarily things have changed per se. The town of Owego, the village of Waverly, the town of Barton are all on our shared services arrangement now. Have been for pretty much a year or more at this point, at least for the village of Owego and the town of Barton. Village of Waverly came on at the beginning of this year. We're getting into now, and the reason this is coming up now is there's the state has released a new grant cycle. So we have access to a grant that we used the first time from the Department of State. And this grant is a local government efficiency grant. And the idea behind it is that it pays for a fair number of IT capital costs that you would normally incur, usually either as part of the process of coming together in a shared services arrangement or just in general if you had needs that came along. So the grant is due in the end of July, and one of the pieces of it, and this is the reason that I'm here today, is that there is a resolution from the board that will need to have passed in order for the we have to submit it. It has to be a resolution basically saying, we support the grant application. It does not obligate you to ultimately participate in it, but we have to submit it with the materials at the end of July when we apply for the grant. And then we hear about the award in December, and then usually we can start applying for the funds from it in February. But the grant itself is actually any expenditures incurred starting in this fiscal year. So anything from April 1st, 2021 forward is covered. So I've started here by having a meeting with Mayor Barada. He, myself, and the Deputy Director of IT, Drew Griffin, We met several weeks ago. We discussed, kind of the high levels of how the shared services arrangement works, the things that are needed, what does and doesn't happen and stuff like that, which I'll get into in a second. But then we also followed that up on Friday last week with a meeting with the department heads of the various, for the various departments in the county, or sorry, the county, the village, and spoke to them, just kind of outlining the process there to answering any questions they might have and those types of things. Both of those meetings were positive. There was support from those groups to keep moving forward there. So the next step here is to come back and talk to the board once again and revisit the discussion. At a very high level, the idea of shared services is that the county is specific to IT services. So the county is able and in a position to provide comprehensive IT support services to any of the constituent municipalities in the county. That means we take care of computers, desktop computers, do the upgrades for them, printers, telephone systems, all these types of things. The county has systems already set that can be expanded to encompass your operational entities, things like your phone system and stuff like that. We can absorb those into the county system. Generally speaking, from the perspective of how the network is configured for us, a village or a municipal entity looks like another, another department. Excuse me. So we have, like, if a department, take like an inside the county, the mental health department, public health department, they have applications and they have tools that they use and stuff like that. So generally on inside the county's operations, they have their own servers for those, they have their own systems, they have their own software, they get to pick their own software for that type of stuff. Same thing applies to municipal entities in our shared services arrangement. So we essentially take care of the underlying basic infrastructure. And through the arrangement, it's good for the county because it helps us spread out our costs over a somewhat larger base of operations and ensures a solid backstop of high-level technical people inside the county. And for the villages and towns, usually it either is the same cost for a significantly more service than you can pay for in the private market, or it cuts your costs significantly. In both the village of Waverly and the town of Owego's case, they've been it's cut tens of thousands of dollars of their IT costs down. I don't have costing yet for the village, but from a few years ago, and based on the size of the village, I would suspect that there would be some savings. Could be 10,000, 10 to 15,000 a year, maybe more in costs. And we'll start doing that analysis here in the next few weeks as well. So at a minimum right now, I'm here to answer any other questions that might come up from the, about shared services and things like that, if there's anything you would like to ask me, and also to ask that the village board approve and pass the resolution in support of the grant so that we can include it. So this round would be the village of Owego and the town of Candor would be applicants in this. We would almost certainly get the grant because the state likes this program. They consider it a gold star model of how how government shared service efficiency should work. They keep highlighting it to other entities regularly. So as long as we put together an application, we'll probably get the money. The money will offset, I mentioned, capital expenditures. So as you're looking to move into your new building early next year, you're going to face expenditures for things like a phone system in that building and stuff like that. The grant itself helps pay for those types of capital expenditures. So right now, without being in the shared service arrangement, the village would eventually be on the hook for those types of upgrades anyways as a regular course of business. You're going to move into these new buildings. You're going to have to buy equipment to outfit them and stuff like that. It just so happens that based on this timing, we probably can offload a fair chunk of that, which probably is going to amount to $20,000 or $30,000 worth of stuff onto the state grant for you as well.
All right, does anybody have,
So the grant will just cover the equipment?
Yeah, it's just an equipment. So the idea of the grant is that the grant is designed to facilitate getting you to shared services. So if you have two entities, like if you look at the county, sorry, I like to gesture on the screen, but I don't know who can see me on a screen. But if you look at the county, so we have one county, our systems, then you've got the village, and you have your own systems. You've got a different phone system and a different set of computers and stuff like that. In order to merge them together and achieve the efficiencies of working together, the village would need to purchase certain equipment that's like the county's already. So you would need to purchase phones and a phone system similar to ours is probably the easiest example. The grant pays for the idea of the grant is that it pays for things to take away the impediment of capital expenditures to get to the savings. So if by combining phone systems you saved $1,000 a year and it cost you $2,000 worth of equipment, the state will pay $2,000 to help you achieve the $1,000 worth of savings, because over time the savings adds up, to year to year to year to year. So every year you add another $1,000 worth of savings.
So your annual fee, is that just for the actual maintenance?
Yeah, so the county enters into an agreement with each municipality. The agreement outlines there's formulas for 4 areas that we make charges for. They are designed only to capture the costs that come to the county. So it's not a money-making operation for us. It is designed to, we can't, there's like 2 sides to it. One, the county can't subsidize your operations, but the county also is not in the business of trying to make money from selling services to yours. So we try to come up as close as possible to what the actual costs are for things, and then we pass those along. Those are grouped into 4 groupings. There's a desktop computers, so we take things like the Windows 10, the license for Windows 10, the license for antivirus software, license for Microsoft Office, all of those little things that add up onto a computer, replacing the computer every 5 to 7 years. We come up with a charge for that, and then the entity is assessed a charge per computer. So if there's I think usually the last couple of years it's been about $190 a computer per year. So you get, if you have 10 computers, it's 10 times 190, and that's the charge. So there's one for desktop computers, there's one for servers, which is the infrastructure that runs your applications on the back end, one for the telephone system, and then one that covers a fractional cost of the labor that the county has, for the department's labor overhead. And that's based on how many employees the municipal entity has. So when you sign an agreement, the agreement includes a set of formulas for those 4 areas. So they're all laid out in advance. And then each year we send those assessments down, usually after we get the bills and stuff like that. And towards the end of the year, we compile everything together, and then we share with you exactly what everything cost. Generally, the costs don't change that much year to year. And if there is a moderate change in some costs, like periodically there will have to be investments in other things, and that might change. If that came along, we would of course have discussions in advance to let people know.
I think currently we pay outside consultants to do the same stuff the county's on. So we pay Pyramid to do the same stuff. So.
Correct. Then through the discussions that we had with the department heads, there was another probably fairly significant piece of this that will have a positive impact. The county has extensive fiber optic networking between our buildings, but since our buildings are also in the village of Owego, that means that they're conveniently near pretty much every village of Owego building too. So currently, your buildings, the police station, the fire station, the village, the current village hall, the new village hall, the highway building and stuff, they're all paying for phone services at each building and telephone services at each building. I'm sorry, telephone and internet services at each building. So in this shared services arrangement, the county, we can link a lot of those buildings into the county's infrastructure as well. So you'll be able to start, each building will not only eliminate those individual charges, so that's where a lot of the savings is going to start coming from, you're going to also see much higher capacities available. So there'll be things that you've never been able to do before between the buildings and between the entities as well. I think one of the department heads even brought up, Mike, I think this was about code enforcement, right? At the meeting last week, if I'm not mistaken, there was a discussion about code enforcement and how, like for instance, if several municipalities in the county wanted to get together and jointly purchase or negotiate for code enforcement software to use between all the municipal entities, when on shared services, it would be very easy for any of those entities to negotiate and use the same software because we already provide all the back-end infrastructure. So like if the Village of Waverly, the Town of Owego, and the Village of Owego all wanted to use one common software package and it saved a bunch of money, then subscribing to 3 services, you'd be able to do that very easily because you're all on the same shared services arrangement.
I was going to ask you about that, Doug. The police and the sheriffs don't have the same communicating system currently, but they were looking into that. Is that it'll be easier now that you would hook this up?
When you say, are you talking about the radios or you're talking about other systems?
Well, I guess several aspects, but the police station will be getting all new upgraded computers, high speed, and so everything will be sped up anyways that way, right?
Correct. So they would, yeah. So in this arrangement, they would all get, replaced computers, or we would bring them into the county's network operations fold. We did this at the Village of Waverly. If you wanted to ask Chief Gillette out there about that, Dan is really pretty excited about how things have gone. It's made a lot of their lives easier, with how things work for them. I do think the Village of Waverly's police department was a little more integrated systems-wise than the Village of Owego's police department is with the sheriff's office. In terms of like there's a couple applications that the sheriff's office is allowing the Village of Waverly to use, but I don't think Owego has availed themselves of that at this point. But they could.
But we'd be closer to it when they get like their additional radios and stuff. And our courts also are working together. So yeah. Sounds great to me, guys. I'm pro writing this letter.
Making a motion. Yeah, so what we have is we have a resolution that,
You have it already, okay.
Yeah, so the county has used the same resolution. Nate plugged in our municipality into it, but it basically says that we support applying for this grant.
Thank you
So
very much.
it doesn't tie us to doing anything if we do get it. It's just that we support going forward pretty much.
Yeah, yes. You technically have the option. We awarded the grant. You could decline later to participate in it. So it kind of, you still have you're not at the actual decision point, but if we don't go forward with the resolution, you won't get anything.
Mr. Mayor, I move the resolution as written.
I second.
Okay. Do we have any more discussion on the resolution? Vote on it. Rob?
Yes.
Rusty?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Ed? If it's still there. Picture's gone.
You signed it, but the picture's gone.
Does this. Laura?
Yes.
And yes. All right. Do we need anything else, Doug, other than to know it's coming?
Nope, not right now. So there'll be, we'll follow up as time goes on here with the grant process and stuff like that. Oh, I should also point out, we also discussed, yes, I'm sorry. There is something we should discuss. Going into the fall, your current, eventually you're going to be going on to shared services. If you're going on to shared services, which, seems likely, the most opportune time to do it would be a few months before the village moves into their new building. because what we don't want to do is try to do them both at the same time. You know, you're trying to move and we're trying to move all your programs. That's really going to be painful. And there wouldn't be much benefit to doing it after you move, because then you would have to set up the new building using all the old stuff, only to have to go through and take it all out. So if your timeline holds for the building occupancy, which was like late or mid-winter, February, March timeframe, then, whoops, sorry, were you saying something?
But I just said, yeah, that's right, the timeline was.
Okay, so if it holds for a February, March timeframe, I would suggest that like October, November, or maybe early December would be the most opportune time to make the transition onto shared services. So there's that brings up a slight timing issue for the village. It's technically before you know that you're getting the grant. As I mentioned before, I would be totally shocked if we did not get the grant. But nevertheless, you will ultimately need to, if we follow that timetable, the village would need to pay for certain services up front and then get later reimbursed through the grant. So, you know, anything from April 1st of this year forward is claimable, so that's not a problem. And you're going to incur expenditures anyways, moving into the new building. So like you're facing down, you know, capital expenditures that you'll have to make, you know, buying network equipment or buying phones, telephone systems or whatever for this new building. So I would probably suggest that the village board be prepared to make those expenditures as a part of, think that through. The village board be prepared to essentially, instead of making the expenditures they would in the building, they make them into the shared services infrastructure, because they'll get reclaimed eventually anyways. So I did want to make that discussion up front, prepare you all for that, because that's probably a discussion that would be happening in the fall.
So Mayor, I've got a couple of thoughts on that, which, I mean, I think it's a great idea because, you know, that potentially results in some savings. But the thing that we have to be mindful of is, one, I guess, what this equipment and capital improvements would actually be. And Doug, I'm sure you can help the village understand that. But then we need to coordinate that with the architect to make sure that all that stuff is already included, or to understand, is that stuff included in the current capital projects that was gone out to bid for. So, you know, I don't know, Mayor, maybe you do, if like the phone lines and that type of infrastructure is part of the specs for the capital project. Because if it is, then we need to de-scope that out of the capital projects before the contractor, you know, orders the equipment to install, you know, whenever they're scheduled to do that in their current construction projects. Because I just don't want us to run into a, you know, we have to pay the contractor for it because they've already ordered it, or it's too late to back out of it. You know, come October, November, it's probably going to be too late to undo some of that work that's just set up. And then understanding if the equipment that, Doug, you're talking about, if there's any specific like physical space requirements that the equipment needs that would require modification to the design of the building that's being built. Because we want to get that worked out real fast if that's the case, because, you know, the thing's going up right now.
Yep. So I'll let you talk first, Mike.
I would say the wiring type stuff is included in the building, and the other physical type stuff, like the actual phones and servers and whatnot, would be not included in the building.
Yeah, that's typically correct. Yeah, so the like data network cables and those types of things would be built in the building. They're considered part of the built structure. Things like the phone system, you know, if you were to move servers over there, things like that, those would all be items that would come out of, you would contract with separate entities outside of the scope of the project, the construction project for that. So they're already not covered in your grant, your rebuild grant for the building, number one. Number two is that fortunately, myself and Drew, my deputy director, have sat down with the architects already, and we help them spec parts of the building for networking stuff back in 2018 and 2019 beforehand. So we've sort of been on the ground floor on that and helping you guys make sure that the right decisions were made early on for that.
So wait a second, let me get this straight here. This all is coming together almost too nicely. Like I don't, like when's the other shoe drop? And this never works this way in this village.
Say that.
Say what's wrong, it's on you, Nate.
That's right.
We make the jokes here, Nate.
Like we're not there.
Right on mute after that.
All right, so I mean, I think so I guess from my perspective, that conversation about that stuff would be something we'd probably come back to the village board, probably sometime in September. You'd probably see Drew, you know, and start the process of that conversation to say, okay, you know, we're looking ahead, so we need to be prepared to kind of get everybody's sign off that that's okay to move forward with, because then you would also need to enter into the shared services agreements ahead of that and stuff like that too.
Right. All right. Anybody else have anything for Doug? All right. Well, thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
Great, thank you.
All right.
All right, take care.
You too.
You too, thank you.
Our next item on the agenda, department head reports. I think it was suggested we start with Tracy because he's always quick and easy.
Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, the only thing I have this evening is I'd like to request approval to buy a polymer makedown system. The polymer makedown system is required for the final dewatering process of the Class A sludge. The system that we had for the B sludge, Class B sludge we were producing before the upgrade, will not work. We had to switch to a completely different makeup of polymer, so a new system is required. I got bids on it. Out of the 3 bids, the cheapest bid is from BDP Industries for $16,000. BDP has loaned us a unit. That's what we have been dewatering up to this point with. And this price is to purchase that unit. So it's proven that it'll work in our system and work well and stuff. So just requesting that I be able to purchase that unit.
Tracy, how long have they been allowing us to use that?
It's been about 6 months now that they've had it loaned to us, right from the very first dewatering. We tried our old system for just a couple of days. BDP had a gentleman on site, realized that it was just going to be impossible to use, so they brought this unit down and loaned it to us to get us up and running.
That was at no additional cost at that time, right?
Absolutely not, none.
Hey, I just want the board to know the background of that. I see that you have gone out to bid on 3 different places. That would fulfill Nate's question that he would come up with. So I would move that we would purchase this. Now, is this 16,000 the total price, Tracy, or should I ask for slightly more?
No, it's the 16,000 is the full price.
And then I asked that we would buy this polymer makedown system from BDP Industries in the amount of $16,000.
I second.
Now, is there money in the budget for it?
Yep.
In his budget?
Yep, he already has it for this fiscal year.
Yeah, I've got some extra money in the contracted services. We normally would end up using a lot of contracted services to get rid of excess Class B sludge that we weren't able to spread on fields. Producing the A sludge, there's not an issue there as far as the added cost to in the past it was to out in Bath, New York, we had to have it trucked. So there's money to cover this in that line item.
Thank you.
Tracy, the current loaner one, it's only like 6 months old. Are we gonna get that unit that's already there, or are you just getting like same exact one but brand new somewhere?
No, it's going to be this loaner unit that we have.
Great. So you just have
It's
to
all
use it.
set, hooked up and being used, as we speak. So yes.
Awesome.
Mr. Mayor.
Rusty?
So speaking with Tracy about this, this is a used unit. We got it from the company and someone else had used it sparingly, so it is practically brand new. And they have taken good care of us with this by delivering, installing, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the right one for us.
So do we have any more discussion on that? We got a motion and a second to go forward. Ron?
Yes.
Rusty?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Ed? Back yet? Laura?
Yes.
And yes.
I assume Steve, you should.
I think so. Yeah, already put Steve. All right, anything else, Tracy?
That's the only thing I have for this evening, unless somebody has something for me.
Somebody sent me a photo and said that the sewer drains are all filled up over on Williams Street. And I wasn't
Okay.
sure if you could let know that they're filled up over the top.
Okay, I'll have the guys check on that tomorrow.
Thanks.
Is there any word on the Green Street, Tracy?
It's out to bid right now. It went out. It was posted last Wednesday, I believe, was it? Do you remember what day it went in for sure, Rod? I think it was last Wednesday. It went out in the paper.
That's Wednesday.
And so we're waiting on the bids. Bid opening will be July 7th at 2 o'clock.
Okay, thank you, Tracy.
All the people over there will be happy.
Except for Charles, he likes that little wave.
That's a good joke. Kids wanted me to jump in the car today. I said, no, I won't have a car left.
We have a new name for your neighborhood. The East Temple Street Dead Enders.
Yeah, that's for sure. Just came up with that, been there for a while. Yeah. All right, anything else? You good?
Oh, that's it for me.
Okay. Let's see. Robin, you wanna go?
Last time I did a whoops, my bad, I forgot to give the results from the elections. Everything remained the same except for the second lieutenant went to Christina Van Wagner instead of Galuza, Jeremy. So that's the only change. And I'll give that to you. That was my bad, whoops. So I've already talked to Rod that the prediction is the ambulance is about 2 weeks away. He now has the VIN number so that the insurance cards can get UPS and so that they can get the title process going and the inspection. And once that's done, then Jeff will be delivering it. So, and by then we should have the close and plus the summary should be in from Jeff. And I believe we went a smidge under, which was, we had that big contingency of the 5,000 and we did not use that.
Good.
We were very thrifty in our making. We also, we had bought new tires for the loaner because they were cruddy that came with it. So we are making sure that we get that taken back over, get the cruddy ones put back on and making Merry Christmas. There you go. Have your thingy back.
Perfect.
It's pretty, yeah, so it's pretty much been a nightmare, the loaner, but the blessing of it is it's all been on them. Any repair that's had to be made, I pushed it back on them, so they had to, make it right because we didn't use it that much.
Right.
So And also, all of the students that we had go through the EMT class, every single one of them passed.
Awesome.
Which was awesome considering there was such a lag in, from the end of the class to the state finally decided to let the test go. So it was tough. The other thing is I see on the, you're accepting the finances here, that medics was getting paid the amount of $4,164.82. I have not received anything to sign for that. And I've always signed it as department head, so.
We'll check.
Okay, well, I'm just seeing it here because I haven't seen one in a long time, wondering where they've been, so. And on that note, I'll say hint on that other part.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we'll do the reserve now. So we got
Okay, yep,
another resolution, which Nate put together to establish the reserve fund. And I know he worked with the EMS to figure out what they want to use it for and come up with all this wording. Sort of was right.
Fran, is that something you're ready for?
should we read the whole?
No, you
thing?
can just say
Okay,
as presented or whatever.
Yeah, I request the board accept the resolution to establish the Medical Emergency Services Equipment Capital Reserve Fund as outlined in the summary.
Second it.
Laura is. All right. We have any discussion on this? This is just to create the account. Like I said, Nate worked with Robin and company to come up with everything they're gonna want to use it for and write all the legal stuff so that we can use it for that stuff.
So everybody's good, the mayor's good, Robin's good, Nate's good on the language so that the money can be gotten out when it needs to be, how it needs to be, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Okay.
Laura did.
Oh, okay.
All right, we'll vote on it. Ron?
Well, I did have a question. I mean,
Okay.
it's pretty ambiguous as to what it's used for. Is that going to get us in trouble, Nate, or is that on purpose?
Yeah, so that's a great question. That's on purpose. So the way that this capital reserve is set up, it's a type capital reserve, so it does not identify a specific thing to be purchased. And so we've phrased this broadly because the comptroller says you can set the reserve up for any particular category of things as long as the category is something that you actually need. And that's where, I forget exactly how I phrased it, and I don't have it open in front of me, but I know it's written real broadly. So I think we can use it to buy ambulances, we can use it to buy any other kind of medical equipment that would either go in an ambulance or be stored at the firehouse or the, whatever building we end up with the EMS in. That's the reason it's worded that way.
I mean, as long as you're fine, I figured you wrote it. I was just wondering about the ambiguity of it.
Yeah, no, it's intentional.
Okay, thank you.
Because there's so many tiny elements, it's easier just to broad spectrum it. And
I
then-
just didn't know if that would bite us in the rear later on or not.
Yeah, and actually, Ron, so any future purchases that the EMS department wants to make using these monies is subject to board resolution and a permissive referendum period. So, Robin, that's the 30-day publication after the board action. So just please remember that. It's we can't use this fund, tonight or tomorrow. It's always going to be a month out before you can access the money.
Darn. That's fine. It's not like I go out and blow anyway, so.
I know.
That's all I got. Thank you, Nate.
Okay. So shall we vote on it? Ron?
Yes.
Rusty?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes,
There. Laura?
Yes.
That was a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And yes. So everybody went in. I don't know. Nobody's there anymore.
I mean, this one's.
Anything else? Rob?
Of course I'm.
Mayor, I did have one thing for the ambulance purchase that's coming up. As Robin said, you know, the vehicles are going to come in a couple of weeks. And so I've been talking with Owego State Bank to get the bond documents ironed out. We're scheduled to close, I think, on July 1st. And at the last meeting, I'd asked if we were doing a callable or a non-callable bond. Susan Farrell over at Owego State Bank said that the rates are 1.6% for a non-callable bond, which is, I think, what we knew. And then the callable one, meaning you could prepay, would be 1.85%. So does the board, which one does the board want to go with?
Okay, that's a great question. So, what do you guys think?
We've discussed this a little bit today, and we think that some of us think that the savings for the callable will be insignificant. So my recommendation is the 1.6 non-callable. Almost all that interest is in the first year or two anyway, so if we called it in a couple of years, we would have paid most of the interest anyway. That's my suggestion.
Are you making that motion?
Yes. My suggestion is I make that motion.
So wait, just to clarify, Rusty, I think you used the terms, I think you flip-flop terms. Do you mean you want the non-callable bond, which is the lower interest rate?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Weren't you listening, Nate?
I thought he called it the callable one. And I was like, wait, what? Doesn't make sense.
The 1.6%. All right, so we have a motion and a second to go with that. So the only thing we can do is prepay it off early. We're not going to save any money anyway by doing this. 1.6. All right, vote on that, Ron?
Yes.
Rusty?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And yes.
What was the amount of the bond again, Rodney?
124,000.
124.
Anything else for Robin? Jimmy, you want to go?
You let Jeff go.
Sure. Jeff? Jeff, you want to go? I think you may be sleeping.
Just trying to
I got a couple informational things and one request.
Oh, good.
At down at Marvin Park, we think that we've isolated the big leak down there, which is 4 or 5 gallons a minute, within a 100 foot section of the main. So tomorrow we have New York Leak Detection Incorporated coming down to do ground penetrating radar to see if we've got it right. Hopefully we'll find it with that and we can make the repairs to that. The other informational thing is we keep getting calls about the flags on the bridge. So we went to uscode.house.gov, which is a federal government site, and it states, when the flag of the United States is displayed from a staff projecting horizontally or an angle from a windowsill, balcony, front of building, blah, 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 the union of the flag should be placed at the peak of the staff. So the flags on the bridge are correct. So if anybody asks you, the flags are upright. So that's the only other thing I've got. I'm tired of it. I'm telling you, I've been listening to it for 20 years. The request that I have is one of my full-time employees transferred to the sewer department. So now I have 2 full-time openings. I've got one seasonal employee that's been there for a couple of months. Joe Miner is his name. I'd like to move him into one of those spots before he decides to move along at a starting pay of $13.50 an hour. I don't normally do it this way, but I don't want to lose this guy. And, you know, we're going to have to sit down and figure something out because I keep losing people and I can't get anybody because we don't pay anything.
Jeff,
Jeff,
what's his last name? Minor. Thank you.
Jeff, there's some reason that we don't pay. I mean, you can go to McDonald's and get $15.50 an hour, I think, right now, right?
You guys tell me. I'd have to jack my budget up.
I went to the drive-through the other day to get a coffee, and yeah, there was a sign there. I don't see how you can get anyone who's going to, you know, be a productive employee or want to stick around at that wage.
I'm with you, Ed. But we need to sit down. We need to sit down and figure out what you're willing to pay.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm for it. I'll sit down with you. I definitely would like you to pay more for code officer and for your whoever's going to come replace you. I don't know how that's going to work, but you're training people and picking people to move up. I think you're doing a good job at it always, and I don't know how you've done everything on the budget you've done, other than some morale or something to keep those guys. So I do think we ought to, you know, we count on your services so much for the village. I know it's a big portion of our budget, but we ought to put a little bit more towards you, because it's like, this is what we love about our village, is the stuff that you provide. You know, they don't actually know it, you know. But I do think
most people,
our workers more.
most people don't know half of what we do. I mean, you know, but at any rate, I'd like to hire Joe full time. We'll start him out at $13.50 plus bennies.
I'll motion for
Yeah, I'll
that.
second.
Time to speak. Apparently not.
You know, the other problem I've got is the way the contract's written. I can't start a new guy for more than what my lowest paid guy is paid. So we'd have to bump everybody up to figure it out, but we can get into that hopefully fairly soon.
Yeah, it's a CESA thing. Rusty, would you?
No, fine. I was going to move to hire this gentleman. Did somebody else do that in the interim?
I don't think so.
Well, let's pretend they did. I move that we hire Joe Minor from seasonal to full-time at $13.50 an hour.
And I think Laura seconded that.
I'll second it.
Sorry if somebody else did it on the thing. We're having trouble hearing each other and coordinating.
Okay. Oh, did you make sure you put in full bennies and starting immediately?
Full bennies.
Full benefits starting immediately.
Benadryl I did not put in, and he's starting immediately.
No, I normally put down the next pay, which is pretty almost. This makes what fits in our,
Pay thing.
well, next pay is Thursdays.
Jeff, when do you want him to start?
Immediately,
That's what I said.
tomorrow. Actually, we'll start him retro today.
Go. We'll figure the paycheck out. We need the man in the trenches.
I have another comment on the
Sure, we're in the middle of them.
At the NICOM conference, I was talking with one of the vendors who does e-coding. And I asked him what the average wage for code enforcement is. And he went and checked online. Went through
Point of order.
Wait a minute.
Point of order. Hey,
I'm talking.
point of orders.
But anyway,
Sorry, Mike.
this gentleman told me that from his research online, that the average code enforcement person was being paid $52,000 plus benefits.
Yeah.
So we need to be looking at, looking beyond 40,000 for a permanent full-time person.
That's all the same stuff like Ed was saying, you go make $15 at McDonald's. So anyway, we got a motion and a second to hire this guy. Should we vote on him? Rusty?
Apologize, it seemed, did I upset you? A point of order means that something's going on. That needs to be addressed. That's what a point of order is, not interrupting somebody. And my point of order just was, we're in the middle of a motion,
Sorry.
not talking about a code enforcement officer. That was all my point of order.
You're right.
Discussion on
Sorry.
the motion, and then anything you want to say.
Let's vote on this before I say something I shouldn't. Ron?
Yes.
Rusty?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And yes. Anything else, John?
Thank you.
Or, hey,
Thank
Jeff,
you, and that's all I've got.
Hey, Jeff,
But
I want to just get through with this FEMA. We got to pay back FEMA.
Oh, yeah.
right,
So we finally got all the final figures, and this was because
This was from the flood.
this was back in the flood, 2011. We're going to owe FEMA $153,369.01. They will pay us back $30,372, but only after we pay them. But this will almost close out the whole book on anything with FEMA for the flood since 2011. So we're ready to send them a check, but I didn't want to send them a check until I tell you guys what I'm doing. It's a lot of money just to save money.
Yeah. We probably need,
You agree with that, Jeff? Jeff?
unfortunately, yes.
Okay, that's all.
Most of that is for the pool because of the Hooker Foundation money that we got, but there's nothing we can do about it.
Are we looking at another 10 years to get that $30,000 back?
I wouldn't doubt it, Ron.
FEMA.
They said they won't talk to us until we pay them. Whatever. But we made money on their money for the last 10 years anyhow, so.
So we have the money to pay him?
Yeah, we have the money to pay them.
We probably need a motion for that.
Yeah, let's make a motion to pay FEMA back the 153,369.01. That clears up a whole bunch of their project worksheets and gets rid of the pool, the pump house, and a little bit of 90 Temple Street.
Where are we paying it from?
Well, it's gonna be from our fund balance someplace. We don't have any like extra money.
Right.
All right, I'll make that motion.
All right,
I'll second it.
Any discussion on that? 10-year-old stuff.
Yeah.
All right, we'll vote on that. Ron?
Yes.
Rusty?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And yes.
All right, thank you.
And anything else, Jeff? Anything else for Jeff? Oh, I have something. The pool. Do we have a date yet?
No.
Keep
The
telling people.
pool's all ready. The pool's all ready. The the girl that's in charge of the pool is all set. We're just waiting for the certifications for all the lifeguards. Because of COVID last year, they didn't do a renewal, so everybody's scurrying to try and get it done. Should be open like it always is shortly after graduation.
Jeff, my son Jay completed his certification today, so he's looking for his certificate tomorrow.
Great.
Perfect. I keep telling people end of June, but that's next week, so.
Well, 10 days.
Oh, yeah. Next week and a half.
It's graduation this week, isn't it?
This week, yeah.
We never open before the end of June anyways, so.
Yeah.
It's hot out today, damn it.
I know.
I know.
Will be nice today, right?
It's only gonna be 60 tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow, wait till tomorrow.
As soon as I have a firm date, I will let everybody know and I'll get it on WEBO and
Yeah, I'll get it up on the website.
yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
There you go.
Yep. Other than that, if nobody's got anything else, I'm cutting out.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I won't be in tomorrow either.
Okay, no problem.
All right.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
All right. Jimmy, you want to go?
Yes, sir. Looking for approval to go out to the annual New York State DEC grant that we go for every year. We've gotten it the last 3 years. It's a matching grant. Make that. Cindy's got all the paper. She just got some.
How much is it?
$3,000. It's a matching grant, so they give us 15.
Rusty?
I move that we approve going out for the DEC grant.
A second.
All right. Any questions about that? All right. Vote on that. Ron?
Yes.
Rusty?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And yes.
Both bay door motors at Station 2 are on the fritz, as I talked about last meeting. Baker's is gonna come fix the doors. I have enough money in my budget to fix those. We just gonna put new door or motors on, so. 801 went for New York State inspection. It failed. It needs a lot of work. That's the truck that we got in for the AFG grant. They are releasing grants as we speak, stages. It's gonna be a lot of money to put in 801 to then hopefully receive the grant, and the truck has to go to the governor. So trying to wait to see if we get the grant. If we don't, then obviously we gotta put the money into it. But I can't see putting the money into it just to send the truck to appointments. So that is out of service at this time.
Yeah, agreed.
804 is next. It's not gonna pass this time. So that's gonna bring up my next question is the truck. That's really all I got.
When's the inspection on that one due?
It's due. It's due. I know what's gonna happen is it's not gonna pass.
So what does that leave us?
One truck. That's a pump and tanker, so it's a 3 main cab.
Right.
That's gonna be my problem.
Rusty?
Did you find anything out from the company that we're talking about potentially buying a truck from? Remember, we were trying to find out about the New York State prices and how long that.
They sent a letter to the mayor.
Yeah. I also talked to the banks about financing, and they would probably be under their rates. They would beat their rates.
Okay.
How long is the?
And they also said they're willing to look at it, so.
The letter said 60 days from May 17th.
Is how long the price is valid?
Okay.
The only problem I see is you only have possibility of paying back 40,000 a year, so you can't have a payment over 40,000 a year. Can you make that happen?
Can't make any of that.
Well, no. I mean,
That's up to you guys.
No, I mean, between your reserve funds or whatever, how much you need, really. Well, I mean, it goes over 40, there's no money over 40.
I'm just telling you guys, you need a truck.
No, I just say, I need a
Where the money comes from, that's above my pay grade.
I didn't even put it 60 days. Sorry, Rusty.
So we have around 237 in reserve. We obviously don't want to spend it all, but however much would have to be spent is what have to be spent. If we buy the truck, I think it's up to about 510 now or something like that.
518, 70.
So let's call it 520 for the truck. So let's pretend that we spent 220 of the reserve, which we'd have to come up with 300 grand more. If we, at 40 a year is how much we'd be able to pay. What did I just say? 300 more plus interest, 320 more, 40 a year, 8 years. That's what that would be about. That's the general.
But we can't do 8 years. Well, we can, but it's going to take a lot longer to do.
More problematic to do 8 years with,
And we're going to be
the
past
rules.
the 60 days for sure.
Yeah.
That's
So in 8 years, you're gonna need a ladder truck.
No, one thing at a time, Jim.
I'm just being realistic.
Stop it.
Fire department's an expensive business. Just think of all the money you save with people being volunteers, not paying.
That's true.
No, the problem is, if you use that 40,000 you get for the next 8 years, you'll still have no reserve.
Right, you have zero.
You're at zero for $1 million.
It's not a fire department problem, it's a building problem.
Well, I know, they go together, don't they?
We're here to protect this village and we need the equipment to protect it. And unfortunately, the trucks are old. It's up to you guys whether you want to keep dumping tens of thousands of dollars in these trucks that don't meet the requirements. If something happens, you're going to spend more in liability damages than you are on a new fire truck.
So what length can we borrow for?
That's a great question. If we're going to have to do
The 5 years is our.
I know that's our optimal window, but.
That's what else.
You just don't have that much coming in. Unless you
So
got
how expensive, and I know, Jim, I know you've sent it over to me and I just don't remember off the top of my head, but how expensive is this vehicle?
Cost is $518,784.
So generally speaking, for a vehicle that expensive, the village could go out for like 20 years. So you bond it for 20 years, it becomes a lot more manageable of a number instead of trying to pay it off in 5. Or 8.
FBA says that truck's supposed to go into reserve after 15 years. It's not supposed to be a frontline entry.
we could look for,
That's half the problem we got.
could look for a 15-year loan instead of a 5-year loan. That would help the payment for sure. Then we get prestige.
Yeah, we know, we talked about this, we're gonna talk about it some more, that the reason for 5 years is for the simplicity of doing the legalese on it, but if that's not doable to us, then we have to do a different situation. And from there, we can do however many years, if we decide to do all this, we can do however many years we find to be in our best interest or what we can do. So, yeah, we have all those options.
5 years help us get the money a little quicker.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if we can't pay it back, then it doesn't do us any good.
Well, let's do some research.
Well, I thought that's what we were doing last time.
No, I did the research on the numbers.
On the bank.
Yeah, I did the bank.
So what are we gonna do when 804 goes in for inspection?
Well, you're not gonna get this truck for, if we're talking a 15-year loan, we got how long of a, Nate would know, but I think we're gonna have a public hearing and everything else.
At least 30 days, aren't we?
Couple
Yeah, I
months.
mean, yeah, it's at least 30 days from whenever you pass the resolution. But Rod, you said you went to banks and got some quotes on at least a 5 or an 8-year bond. Is that right?
I was just looking at 5 years from now.
What was the rate?
They did, I broke it up, and I got the different rates. I did it from 150, 250, 300,000, 350. So, but across the board, they're about anywhere from say 1.8 to 2.2, 2.25.
Yeah, so all of those sound like they're lower than the lease financing rate. So I think the bond would be the way to go. And then it's just your question of, which I think was where your other discussion was, is can we even pay it over 5 years, or do you need to spread it out over a longer period of time? But it sounds like a bank instead of the lease finance is the way to go.
Rusty?
So Jimmy, how long did they feel like it would take them to get us a truck made and to us? What, we have a time frame for these?
This truck is in production.
It's in production, but still,
It would be October.
October. I'm just saying, we're in trouble. Whether we get this truck or not, about 801 and 804, we're in trouble either way.
If if we don't pass inspection by the end of June,
Yeah,
and we don't have a truck till.
I'm not trying to make that.
But the longer we wait, that truck's gonna be gone, and now you're waiting until next year.
Right.
And then what are you gonna do with 2 trucks?
I'm just, I mean, you have to dump money into it to pass inspection anyway. Not that we want to do that.
You're gonna dump your down payment in that truck.
We really don't have a choice. It's gonna, I mean, you can't get a new one till October.
I get it.
Short of getting coursing money.
But that's why I also brought this to the village 3 months ago.
When's the steamer coming back?
I'm trying to do my best for you guys to save money every time I can.
We know. Rusty,
I would recommend that you, the mayor, consider appointing, because it's hard to have the whole village board because we have to have public meetings, et cetera, a 3-person committee. And that should be you, myself, maybe Ron, and we should meet now. And we should look at this stuff and talk about this stuff and come up with a recommendation for absolutely the next village board meeting. We really can't take any action right now, but we should be thinking about this right now.
yeah, I mean, so what we need to do is really get with Ron and get with the banks and get real numbers on longer term loans, I guess.
Could we do the 5-year, then refinance that after the permissive referendum, or is that not allowed?
That I don't know.
That trick is probably not allowed. Nate, did you hear that?
I did, and that's a great question, and it's really, I don't think it would be allowed. I mean, what you should be doing is planning the financing out long-term, like now. So what I'll do then is put the bond resolution together for the next board meeting, and I'll leave blanks for the length of the bond that you're authorizing, and the amount, because I think those are the 2 things that you guys need to figure out. And then if the committee can get me that information, I guess heck, at the meeting itself, I can just type it in if I'm remote, or we handwrite it in if we're in person. So that way, at least, we're not getting a recommendation at the next meeting and then having to wait 2 more weeks for the resolution to get put together.
Maybe the option 4 shows if you went 12 years at 3.19, your payment's $37,190. If you went 15 years at 3.21, you're at $31,100.
Is that their rates?
That's their rates, which we can probably beat.
With $150,000.
So that would still leave us money in the budget.
You'd have money in the reserve, and you'd be putting a little bit in the reserve a year, not much, so.
How much down payment we can put it, 100,000?
150, according to these.
And now, of course, we do have the 237, and Jim's recommended 150. We could certainly make decisions on. I know he wouldn't like it if we pick another number, but we can certainly look at all that.
Well, because like you said, we're gonna still need that money for
Other,
I mean, it's not the only truck we gotta replace.
Mike, are you interested in my thoughts about
Yeah, I mean, we
Small-
definitely gotta
committee doing that?
get this figured out sooner rather than later.
And we can't wait till next meeting. We wait till meetings. We need to do some off meeting stuff on these things.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can't make no decisions, but we can
Yeah.
figure out all the details so we come to the next meeting ready to do something. Or not do something.
Oh, yeah, that's always.
I recommend that we create a committee of 3 gentlemen to look at the details to come back next meeting.
Yeah, we'll get some numbers from my friends at the bank on longer term loans so we can compare them to the lease financing, figure out which one to put in Nate's resolution.
And of course, this is the mayor's prerogative. This doesn't need a board action. The mayor puts this all
Okay.
together.
So we'll get it done.
All I can ask for.
I had one thing, I'm gonna need you to tell us the names. For various reasons, we think that, some of us think that we should always look at our slates of candidates, our elected folks, and so we've done that to some degree over the fire, because we did not approve the fire board officers last meeting. So I'm going to move that we approve the fire board officers this meeting, the fire chiefs this meeting. And James, it's Jim Morris, chief. James Morris. Yes. First assistant.
Andrew Churchman.
Andrew Churchman. Second assistant.
Charles Olmsted.
Charles Olmsted. Deputy chief.
Tyler Bowen.
Tyler Bowen. Secretary.
Kelly Hawkins.
And treasurer.
Janice Jones.
I move that we approve those officers as the officers of the fire company, fire department.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion about that? Ron?
Yes.
Rusty?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Ed is officially let this down. Laura?
Yes.
And yes.
And for the same reasoning, I'm going to put off for 2 weeks the approval, in my mind, if somebody else doesn't have to do that, of the EMS officers for the same thought process and they're looking at that stuff. So I'm not going to make that motion just as we did do the fire department last time.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Jim.
And I gotta get with Nate, figure out if we even have to approve those or what. We gotta look back at all the resolutions we did when we made.
About how it works. Yeah, we don't- yeah.
So how about the workers fund for OPD? We got it before, a couple of weeks ago.
There you go.
Yep, the only thing is reminder, the senior parade this Thursday
Oh, yeah.
will be coming through the village.
What time is that starting?
5:45, we're leaving the network.
So people will be asking what all the sirens are.
Yeah.
What's
We post
your-
on Facebook.
That's the drive-through from Appalachia to Owego, and I forget, do we need traffic stopped or just?
Yes, yeah.
So Johnson.
You just go down North Avenue, across the bridge.
Down where from
Appalachia to the school.
Appalachian, we come down through McDonald's area, down Front Street, Court, down north.
I don't go down front, me and wind around.
Not all the way.
Big deal.
Too
I
many
think,
cars.
I think when you just go across the bridge, North Avenue, kind of make it bigger.
No, we're coming down.
From down Front Street.
Oh, okay, so you're down front.
Front Street down there, yeah.
Stop complicating things.
I'm about to see it.
You gotta like sites, take them up cemetery or.
Take them up to the cemetery.
Too many cars.
Sorry. Police, we don't have,
Yeah, I didn't talk to Joe today,
yeah, we don't, yeah, we'll talk about that.
yesterday.
So, yeah, so I make a motion that we establish a fund called the State Asset Forfeiture Account.
Okay, so this is the thing we were gonna do, and we didn't know what it was for. We didn't have all the information, right?
This is money that they take for drug buys, drug arrests and forfeitures of cars, things like that.
I'll tell you all that after the second.
Okay.
So it,
Yeah.
yeah, we know what it is. It's state, this is state for when they get certain assets and the municipality gets to have them, where you need a special fund, special stuff to have that money. And we already have a check from them, so we established that. So, and I'll do something after we do this.
You made a motion.
And is this, Nate, do we have to do anything else to use the money out of that fund, or?
The asset forfeiture fund?
Yeah, is the name good enough for that, or?
You know, I'm not familiar with the requirements that the state has around it. It's not a reserve fund in the typical sense at all. You know, it's really where you place forfeited assets. So I would have to look into that to understand what restrictions there are around it. The chief might actually know it off the top of his head already even.
They do, because they've been dealing with this. It's just been housed at the county level or higher before.
But whatever restrictions there are, we have to establish it. This is the thing we have to establish, so we will follow them and we will do it, but we don't have options of
No.
changing it, so this is what we must do.
Yeah, no, there's very clear rules.
So who seconded that?
Right. Any more discussion about that?
$500 Porsche room?
Ron,
Yes.
Rusty,
Yes.
Fran,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
and yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
I believe that we also have to have a separate federal asset forfeiture fund.
All
They
right.
cannot be in the same one. So I'm going, hopefully that being informed that that is correct, we're going to attempt to, I'm going to make a motion to establish a federal forfeit asset forfeiture fund, whatever, you know. So I move that.
I'll second that one as well.
All right, any discussion on that? Different
Where,
sources of
where would the money come from?
About federal government.
What's being forfeited?
And what they seized.
If we have a federal drug case and they seize assets and we are involved and we get any of those things, the federal government distributes them to us.
Okay.
All right.
Escalades.
Oh,
Okay, sorry. BMWs, Mercedes, Escalade.
Ron,
Yes.
Rusty? Yes. Fran,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
and yes.
That's all from the police.
Okay. Do you have any, Dr. Joe, do you have any update from them in general?
I'm sorry, just general stuff on
Yeah.
them? Nothing for tonight.
Yeah, I talked to them last week. All right.
Let's set the public hearing.
Yeah, so the budget, need to set a public hearing for the budget and it has to be passed by July 1st. So we thought it'd be a good thing to set the public hearing for next Monday, the 28th,
What time, Mike?
about 7 o'clock.
Will we set a public hearing for the budget?
And we'll do it,
28, 21, 7 o'clock.
we'll do it our normal way here. We'll meet here and have the go-to meeting thing.
Who seconded that?
Brown. All right, any discussion on that? So we did, I know I worked on it with Rod and Rusty has seen it. We got it down to under the tax cap.
Yeah, the tax cap, the 2% tax cap, but you can only go 1.56. So we're
Around
below that
1%.
a little bit right now. We got to do the final tweaking. Getting close. And then we're going to approve the sewer budget, EMS budget, and the general fund budget. All at the same time.
Right, yeah.
We have a vote.
I know I'm talking a lot tonight, sorry.
Rusty? Oh, yeah, we gotta vote on that, just,
Oh, yep.
Ron,
Yes.
Rusty,
Yes.
Fran,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes. Yes, guys.
and yes.
Excellent.
My meeting's great. Rusty?
Don't want to spend a lot of time on this because, but the board hasn't had an opportunity to meet and do a lot of things about this budget. So I just wanted to throw a couple of quick things in for folks that haven't been privy to it. We're sniffing at trying to get the budget in at 1.13% tax increase. We're sniffing the budget, and once again, these figures are not exact, so people are going to be working on the Mayor Rodney and stuff between then and then now to just make sure that everything fits in where it does, and there'll be some things that we're going to talk about on that. The budget may be $3,097,000, and the assessment numbers are here, and that may raise our, I said 1.13, which may raise our per thousand rate from 976 to 998. These numbers are not exact, but there's approximate how this could go. And we're lucky if we can do this at this number. So under the cap.
Yeah, because
And there's still tweaks.
honestly, so looked at it Rodney, I didn't change a ton, so what was in there that we maybe didn't realize from Joe was there was 2 more full-time officers in all the numbers that weren't accounted for from the COPS grant. So we pulled them out because when we get the COPS grant, we'll get reimbursed all that. So they either should have been pulled out or added on the revenue side. So we just pulled them out because we don't have the people yet. We can always amend the budget to add them in. It's not like we have to raise the money from taxes. So that was most of the 7% that it started at. We didn't change much else anywhere else. Just for all the other department heads, and we'll get it out to everybody like soon this week. I got to get it on the website. All that.
We should hold any questions till next week then.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna email me or-
We'll be a copy to you, we'll advertise it. Get online.
Because we got to publish it out there for the general public to give us questions. Shooting for Wednesday. So we're shooting for Wednesday to get that wrapped up and copies to everybody and put on the website and all that kind of stuff. And public hearing and meeting about it next week. Usual time, usual place. All right. What's the IDA pilot? Is that you? Or is that Nate? That might be Nate.
Let's do this transfer.
Superman pose.
Do the transfer?
This is transfer. This is a sewer transfer for insurance recovery fund.
Oh, okay.
What they did is they had an accident. Tipped over to sewer plant. And we did a little wheel and deal with the insurance company. They covered it for us for, we had to like pay a little bit back premium. We might have paid $1,000, but they paid the $14,000.
Okay, so we just want to transfer from insurance recovery to equipment repairs, because I assume they already repaired the equipment.
I make a motion that we would transfer $14,487.50 from insurance recovery to equipment repairs.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on that? All right, we'll vote on that. Ron?
Yes.
Rusty? Yes. Fran?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And yes. Doug?
You do the IDA one.
I don't either. Nate, do you know what the IDA pilot is?
Hi, this is Christine Curtis. I'm with the IDA. So I could
Christine.
speak to that. Hi,
All right,
are you
go ahead.
ready
Yep.
for that? Okay, great. Thank you all for your time. So I'd just like to go over a brief summary of a pilot application the IDA board will vote on next month. We have a public hearing on the 23rd. The intent for me speaking with you tonight is seeking a letter of support on behalf of the village if the board is so inclined. But the project that is being contemplated right now is in support of a housing development on Temple and Liberty. It's a location where the Property Development Corporation, also known as the Land Bank, has purchased 13 blighted properties, is currently overseeing the demolition, and had made contact with a housing developer who has approached IDA seeking a request of a pilot in support of the project. The end result of the project will be 45 new units, again, constructed in the corner of Temple and Liberty. It will include 2 6-unit townhouses and 1 33-unit apartment building. Over the course of 30 years, the average annual village tax abatement would be $9,997. So when we project the abatements to be provided, the annual average to the village is the $9,997. Of course, some years will be less and some will be more, but that's the projected average that the village tax exemption benefit would provide. Some of the benefits of the project include one full-time position to oversee the completed project once it's up and running. Tioga Opportunities would be the overseer of the rentals, and so we're looking at roughly 2.1 million in the life of the pilot in wages to the local area, roughly 7.8 million infusion of additional disposable income coming from the anticipated new number of residents to the area, and some Village of Owego sewer revenue of $700,800 coming to roughly 10.6 million in benefit, and that is on the conservative scale. And the cost, of course, are the sales tax exemption, mortgage tax exemption, and the real property tax abatement, coming to a total over the course of the pilot of roughly 1.1 million. So from our cost benefit analysis, we're seeing the benefit exceeds the cost by roughly 9.5 million. I guess with that, I'll open it up to any questions any of you may have about the project.
I'll be honest, this is the first time we've really heard about it. We've seen preliminary stuff, and I didn't even know we were at this level yet. I don't know if other board members have been privy to this, but I had no idea a pilot was even going to be presented tonight. I sure don't have access to the numbers.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we need to see all these figures on paper, and we can't just, you know.
It just seems like this is being kind of force-fed to us, and I really like to pump the brakes a little.
Okay, well, I apologize for that oversight. I'd be happy to email the full board a copy of the cost benefit analysis so that you can all review it and feel like you have had some time to think it over and come up with questions that you may have. And you can follow up with those questions with me by email. Do you have another board meeting before the end of the month, or would this be, I believe this would be the last one of the month, is that correct?
Yeah, this is the last one. Technically, we have that public hearing next week, which is a board meeting, technically.
Would that be an opportunity for you all to come to agreement as to whether or not to provide a letter of support for my board at their July board meeting?
Up to you guys, Rusty.
Most likely not.
I'm gonna have to recuse myself from this because I'm on the Tioga Opportunities Board and the Land Bank.
Okay.
Don't ask me the project because I've stayed out of it.
I have your financial assistance application and paperwork with it that was given to me by the county treasurer. I see that the project is going to be about $14 million. I see that the village's tax pilot payment will be $5,000. There are a lot of people that are not real happy about that kind of a pilot amount for that size of and value of a project. When I got this thing, in a half an hour, I wrote 5 pages of questions. We're not going to be ready to do this in 10 minutes.
What's the date of our next board meeting in July?
The 5th. When is your meeting in July?
It is the 7th. So I could attend the 5th and see what you would like to do at that time, if that's best.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, thank you so much. And if it's helpful at all, I'd love to be available to have discussion prior, either by a Zoom meeting with any of you who would like to participate. So who would I coordinate that with? If you're even interested, I don't mean to presume. I just wanted to offer to be available for discussion if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I can coordinate that. If you email me, I can email everybody and see if there's a time or whatever.
Send us your information there, Christine.
Christine Curtis.
Christine.
Yes, I will do so. Should I send that to Mike then?
Yeah, that's
Sure,
fine.
then he'll pass it out.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much, and I look forward to speaking further.
Okay,
Okay, have a good night.
thanks for sitting in on the call. I didn't realize you were there.
No problem. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Okay, have a good night.
I'll see you.
Nobody's repeating. Let's see. Next, we have minutes of 5:17 and 6:7. So the 5:17, Laura, I think we're gonna send something to the clerk's office. I know I was there Friday and Kim said you hadn't got anything.
Yeah, I hadn't had a chance to go watch the video again, but I did now. And I put together just the words that I would want added. And so I can just send those over, read them out loud, and then send them over if you would approve them.
Sure.
So it would just be, it was the part of the minutes where page 3, on page 3 when we were just discussing the local law number 1 change. And so just for under my section, to leave what it said and then add this language. It says trustee Eberly, and then I would just add, spoke about meeting with our area FEMA representative, Jason Fenn, in person to specifically review our proposed local law change. And we have been discussing over many months of meetings, fixing and addressing the village's existing floodplain violations and how to move forward getting into the CRS program. And that we'd sent emails to the board members that included information about what we've been working on and detailing alternative modifications other than eliminating the compensatory storage language paragraph. That I wanted to continue working towards getting into the CRS because of the upcoming national change to flood insurance. For every property owner and our village insurance could benefit from the reduced insurance price. And I said I was pro-smart development projects, like the millions of dollars of improvements coming in for our community from the like the DRI projects. That we're all able to follow the existing laws for construction. And I was opposed to removing the section of the law that prevents someone from building up and flooding the surrounding neighbors, which would put our most vulnerable members of our community at risk. And those were the comments that I would like included.
Okay, and you're gonna send them to Kim?
Yep.
Okay. So.
These are for the 5.
That's for 5:17. So let's see, since Laura had a bunch of comments, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with her comments.
I'll second.
Okay. Anybody have any discussion about that? Vote on that, Ron?
Yes.
Rusty? Yes. Fran?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And yes. All right, and then we have minutes from June 7th, our last meeting. Did we already get?
Yeah, on the June 6th, I just wanted to change a small section on in my trustee report section.
Okay.
And it's just 2 bullet points. So I would just change the section. It says that I was disappointed on and I would just erase what it says and say on the local law number 1 vote about compensatory storage. because it
Okay.
had a different acronym for something that we weren't talking about. And for the second point, where it says there are still 2, and then change it to say unresolved violations the village has with building construction in the floodplain.
Okay. Can you send those to Kim too? Just so that
Yeah,
we.
I'll send that language right to her. And then right underneath that, it was responding to the FEMA letter in 30 days. That part said you were going to investigate the open code violations or something, but it's responding to the FEMA letter with our violations.
That was on the mayor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'll make that motion again since Laura has changes. Accept it with Laura's changes that she's gonna send to Kim.
Second.
Discussion about the rest of the minutes. All right. Ron?
Yes.
Rusty?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And yes. Oh, and Ed lost his internet connection, by the way. He didn't just ditch us. He's been texting me, just trying to get back on. Next item is the treasurer's report. I sent out my little summary just before the meeting. Everybody's running really well. As far as on track on the budget, EMS, because we watched them, is about $43,000 over. They're on track to hit the revenue we projected. It's the expenses that are less. That's a good thing.
Mike, I don't have it in front of me. Did we projected 325 or something?
Yeah.
They're gonna hit that or better.
Yeah, they're running a little bit ahead, not much.
But expenses
Expenses are way low.
significantly less. Great.
So they're in the green by like 43,000 or something.
So we'll have money to put in our funds.
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, no, it's always a good thing, especially, so this is budget month 10, so I mean, we're getting towards the end of the fiscal years. It's good to be in the green still.
Move to accept the treasurer's report.
All right.
Second.
Okay.
And then my only other comment, as a village, in general fund wise and sewer fund, we're doing fine. Police department's over, which we knew, but everybody else is kind of balancing out. Working out. So we'll vote on that. Ron?
Yes.
Rusty?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And yes. Okay, moving along. Next item is trustee reports. Ron?
I've had no reporting this time.
Rusty?
I usually don't, but I have a couple of things. I can't remember last meeting, do we approve of sub-officers in the fire department? And if we do, did we approve the fire police officers? And I don't remember if we do that or not.
I don't know if we do or not. That's a Nate question.
I can't, and I should know that, but I just don't remember right now. So we're gonna pretend that that's it. Because they're not, what do we call them?
They're not
Village
officers.
officials, so I'm gonna guess that we don't do that. I'm not gonna bring that up, and if we have to later, I will do that.
Nate, do you have any insight there? I don't think we vote on fire police.
I would defer your past practice on that. I mean, I think Rusty's right. You know, they're not formal officers or officials of the village. But if the board has approved them previously, then I'd say keep doing that.
I don't remember, so let's not do it tonight.
Yeah, let's investigate.
The other piece that I have is the IDA, et cetera, project on Liberty Temple. We're not going to talk about it a whole lot tonight, but there's a whole lot of information here. And in the next day or two, there is a public hearing. I forget whether it's Wednesday or Thursday.
I did see that.
It's going to be a virtual thing. And there's a whole thing of what they're planning to
it's Thursday.
There's, yeah, line or somewhere, but there's a whole list of things that they're talking about doing on this project. $14 million project. I just I said something earlier about the pilot. $5,000 for the village. Got lots and lots of things to say. Got lots of notes about this, lots of questions about this. I don't remember how pilots work. They want a resolution of our support. If we didn't support it, does that
doesn't
mean
stop.
anything?
Nope.
So we don't really have to say.
Nope.
Okay. So the pilot is for on that $14 million building, the pilot is a total of $15,000 a year, $7,000 for the school, $5,000 for the village, $3,000 for the county, $300 for the town. It's for 30 years, not 10 years or something. It's for 30 years. I said a million questions, million things. Don't know whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, but lots and lots of stuff.
Pilot wise, the way they work, they go through the IDA and the county. And our letters of support might help the IDA or the county. They might hurt if we say no. I don't know.
There's a whole sheets of things that they're predicting of jobs and that.
If we say no, we don't support it, they can still pass it.
Yeah. But anyways, we should still be talking about this. They've got an EDU sheet about projected EDUs. They didn't get that accurate. That's not accurate. They're talking about adding 30 students to the school. They've got pages and pages of economic impacts that show positive impacts. And then they've got 30 students to the school. Of course, students take $25,000 each a year to educate. That's $750,000. They don't have any economic impact of that as the school gets $7 grand. There's a lot of questions about this. A lot of questions.
Yeah, so there is a public hearing, I think Thursday night.
Yeah.
It's out loud.
Mayor, do you know if the pilot, I mean, Rusty mentioned, it's a 30-year pilot. Is this a deviated pilot? So it's a different pilot than what they normally do? Because most IDAs, they should have adopted a uniform pilot that is just kind of the standard, here's what everybody gets. Is this different than what the typical pilot would be? And if so, how, I guess? And those are some of the questions to ask, I guess.
Rusty, I don't know any of that.
Yes, Nate, it is a deviated pilot.
Right.
In fact, on one of the sheets in here, they have a justification for deviation from uniform pilot policy.
I honestly haven't seen whatever.
No one's seen this document because they didn't give it to anybody.
Yeah, and that's the type of thing they're supposed to have provided to you as the board. I mean, when they deviate, they're required to explain in writing the need for deviation, and then they have to notify you. And so if the board hasn't seen it, it doesn't seem like it's a very good notification.
No. So anyways, we have a lot of talking and thinking to do about this. I don't want to get it. I gave it kind of more detail than I wanted to at the moment, but I was going to find the paper that tells exactly, the public hearing. So we should just be 100% sure. It is June 24th, Thursday. I'm sorry. It is June 23rd, Wednesday at 5 p.m.
Oh, that's right.
And I assume it's virtual. So it'll be a public hearing. We already know how difficult it is to communicate on those virtual things. So we'll see how that goes. All right, that's all. I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of the start feel of that.
Things stacked in front of us with no respect or regard to who we are or what they're doing. I just think all things things.
So that project, I don't know much about it.
Wait till the last minute, say,
So it just seems to approve.
I'm on, like I said, land bank and telegraph news, but neither one has talked about it in detail. boards. But anyway, village-wise, they don't need a ton of approvals.
Right.
This is a pilot, which we don't really have any say in, and it's zoned correctly, so it's not like we can, you know, what I mean, there's not a lot of stopping points. There's obviously the planning board, it's gonna have to approve site plan, that kind of stuff.
Seeker and stuff like that. We'll have seekers.
That's not gonna be here, it's, you know, so.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, I guess.
Thanks, Mike.
Fran?
Well, the other week, Rusty and I both went to the New York Conference of Mayors and a number of different interesting sessions. Of course, last week, the four of us went to talk with the town of Owego in regard to the marijuana laws, and essentially, we have until the end of this year to opt out if we don't want to be having sales in the village of Owego, and we don't have all the rules and regulations. We'll probably, like a month or two ahead of time, know whether what's what, but and it'll be a good year and a half before there's any sales in New York State anyways. So there's a lot to be known on that, and also attended a session on the American Rescue Plan Act, which is the relief money from the federal government for the pandemic. And it can be used for a lot of different things. And once again, they don't have all their act together yet on what's what, but we can use it on some infrastructure. We can use it as bonuses for first responders that were working at the time. Other businesses we can give money to if we don't want to use it for the village. But essentially, we're supposed to be getting the first tranche of this money theoretically in a month, but it may be delayed as another month beyond that. And we'll get somewhere between $100 and $108 per capita for the monies. And so what we get in 30 to 60 days will be half of it, and then we'll get the rest a year later. And I said, we don't have to put it into a special fund. We can put it right in our general fund, but we've got to document everything we do. And there's no stipulations on getting the money. We've got to provide some information on where we want the money sent to, but then we have to, over about a 6-year period of time, we have to tell them what we did, or we may have to pay it back.
It'd be like FEMA.
Yeah, yes. So I did make a copy of the documentation that we need to have ahead of time for.
And I did, so I got an email from some email address that was just letters and numbers. And I happened to open it luckily, and it was the paperwork for this. So it is submitted and signed.
Yeah, I think we've already sent this.
So you got all that
You
information?
had to do it by like July.
Okay.
Something like that.
Thank you.
I was happy to open the email because it definitely looked like it's not legitimate.
I mean, we can take monies, I mean, we already have, say we have something budgeted for whatever. We can use that money from the Recovery Act, pay for that, and then we put the money that we've already got budgeted back into
Something else.
to something else that we want to do, so.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But there was another thing I know I brought it up before. We need to be getting rid of equipment that's sitting around rusting away. And I did bring some information from one company that was there. What they do is they come and photograph everything, make a list of details to give to them on the equipment. And they sell it, the buyers pay their commission, we don't pay any fee. And I'm really thinking that someone else besides Jeff should take care of this because he's overloaded with the things he does now. Now, I don't know who we would appoint on the board to do that, but it's a matter of interfacing with their representative and getting the listing set up. So I'll pass on the information to the mayor. I mean, hopefully, you know, we're gonna need a lot of money to equip our new building.
Yeah.
And what's sitting around rusting could be used towards that.
Yeah.
You know?
Very true.
And he said, and the gentleman said they even will sell computer equipment. So when we get our new computer equipment, what we already have now, they can sell for us.
It's good to know.
So it's a matter of somebody's got to interface with the company and get it going.
Good out.
Yeah, I'll work with somebody.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, we've got assets sitting around that should be.
We got to think about when you get ready to sell that building. I don't want you to just give it away.
Right.
We gotta check into that. I don't know if we can.
Do we actually own that building?
Okay.
There might be some funky stuff on the title.
And we might have to pay back something if we sell it.
Yeah. But, so anyway.
But I'm thinking if you sell the building, that would be enough to almost equip the inside of the new one.
Hopefully.
But I do know that, for example, the county wants us to give them the building for $1. They've already approached me about that. They want that for the lawyer's office.
Yeah, I'll give you $2.
No. We're not that flush. We need, we need more for the sale than that.
Those discussions will be coming.
Yeah.
With the building.
Well, I mean, they can even, this company, I'm sure other companies do, can even list properties like that to sell for us.
I don't know the process.
I mean, you know, there might be somebody in
Property's
Broome
hot.
County that wants to buy that building, whatever.
Property's hot in general right now.
It is. Stuff's selling fast.
Might be a good thing.
But yeah, we got a lot of junk sitting around.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna need a lot more parking space than
Yeah, that's true.
than we have now. We can't afford to keep that stuff sitting around.
That's true.
You know, I mean, same with like the fire truck that we need to get rid of. These people can sell it for us.
Yeah, once we need to get rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the
Oh, yeah.
equipment doesn't have to be in running condition. They'll sell, you know, put up for auction, whatever we want to assign to them.
Well, good, fine. We'll give them a call.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll reach out to them.
Anything else?
No, that's all for now. Thank you.
Laura?
So I attended with a bunch of you guys the joint work session meeting with the town of Owego on the marijuana laws. That was kind of like a Parks and Rec meeting. Are they gonna send minutes or something? Because they hosted it there. I'm glad they didn't tape it.
I don't know, honestly.
But anyways, so are we gonna get something from that? And have you heard back about another meeting, or maybe we'll just?
I haven't heard anything. I don't know what, I can get a hold of Don and see what his thoughts are as far as, I know they said one time they wanted to come here to a meeting, so.
Yeah.
I can
Okay.
see if it says like soon or 6 months from now or what.
Yeah, well, the regular, the state's board that's gonna regulate the marijuana sales hasn't even been organized.
Right, I
They
mean, right now,
gotta have that done by the end of September,
right now we don't have any
organizing the
more,
board, and then tell us what's what.
right now we don't have any more information than we had at that meeting, so I don't know if we wait for more information to have another meeting or what. But I'll get with Don. We'll figure.
Well, we'll research what existing law is and like what we're talking about, before we get to the meeting. I don't know. It was just weird that nobody knew what was going on when we were at the meeting, about what existing laws were and what we were there, what we could legislate or not. And
Did you get a copy of that handout from the work session?
yeah, I got that. And hopefully that was provided to them, but I don't know.
That goes over what's already set and what isn't set.
And so I will say that before the NICOM conference, they did say that the most popular topics would be online eventually. I haven't gotten any emails that they put them up there yet. So I assume the marijuana class will be one of those that's online. So if you didn't go, we'll be able to watch it.
That's cool. So anyways, that was just a small thing. The OHPC though has sent their report. Rod, I hope you got that and could attach it to the minutes. Maybe send it, maybe read them. But it's a report to the board that summarizes everything that happened in their February, March, April, May, and June meetings. There was quite a few things approved. They've been working on a lot of people are just doing summer projects for building projects, building businesses opening up. They're working on DRI projects that are upcoming and Main Street grant programs. But there was only one denial. It's very rare to have a denial, but very recently at the last meeting, there was a denial for the application for an electronic sign on Front Street in a residential R2 district. And that did not get approved. And so anyway, rest of the report will be just included in the minutes, I guess, so everybody can read it.
What report?
The OHPC
Oh, okay.
report. I think she sends it to Kim too. So. Nadine's on it, but I think she sends it to, I don't know if she sends it to me, I think Kim too, so. I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's addressed to, as a report to the mayor and board of trustees.
And if Kim doesn't have it, I have it.
Okay.
Probably today.
Oh, okay. All right, so we put that in the minutes.
And then let's see, there's just regular OHPC meeting coming up next, and nothing that I'm aware of for the planning and zoning boards currently. Nothing's been called. There have been training sessions available. Elaine Jardine's been sending to a lot of people for training for these things, and I would encourage people to go to the training. That's all online. It's free, and because we have a lot of things upcoming with the DRI grants, and I think people should be aware of what they're voting on and what their requirements are on those committees. That's it for me.
Do you know if she sent those to the board? Because I don't remember getting any emails from Elaine.
I haven't seen that.
I know she sends them to the people on the planning and zoning boards.
Yep, she sends them to everybody that's on the boards and anybody connected to them in any way. And she'll do it, people within the secretaries within the offices and stuff, and she'll send it all throughout the county. She's got me on the list, and I just oversee the, the boards. So she's got them covered. She's trying to reach out.
Yeah. Anything else?
Nope, that was it.
Okay. All right. Communications. Don't have a lot besides Nikon said that the classes would be online. I haven't heard that they're up there yet. I haven't looked yet either. So maybe they're up there. I assume it'll be soon if they're not. For anybody who couldn't go to Nikon, hopefully watch some of them.
Well, you should register with the Wahoo or
What's that?
for Nikon, the WHOA. Okay, I'll send you.
Oh,
an
the
email.
ham thing?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they used last
so
one.
I think they were gonna send out the information on the sessions through that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did see something about that. So check into that. Other than that, not much. Mayor's report. Much been busy. We've been working on the budget. We've done on that marijuana meeting. We haven't been past the new building over there by DPW. Steel's going up. It looks like a building-ish. Doesn't have sides, but it has like a frame. Like a
That's the
skeleton
steel
of a
we bought,
building.
right?
What's that?
That's the steel we bought.
Maybe.
Did we have to buy that? Yeah.
We had to buy some of it. I don't know which parts we bought. I don't know. Other than that, Rusty?
I do have a question for you. Are you ready for a question? Did design concept ever get back to us with anything about the
Yes.
art park design?
So I did get stuff from them.
Okay.
I thought they were gonna join a meeting and present it.
So they've given you some,
I guess I will take what they emailed me and present it at the next meeting or something.
okay.
But yeah, they gave me something.
Can you email that to each of us so we
Yeah.
can look at it ahead of time?
Got to do anything with this or just something? I don't know.
You gotta say something.
So Mayor, given the recent, just this brief discussion on the DRI project and the Design Connect folks, so I emailed the board a copy of the Hunt contract. Did anyone have any comments or just concerns, questions about it? You know, it's not anything, if you do, it's not anything that I need you to talk to me about right now, but please email me and we can set up a time so I can talk to you about whatever that might be and make sure that any changes you folks have or concerns you have are addressed in the draft contract.
So, and just a further update on that, Nate, myself, and Hunt, along with Brittany Woodburn and Julie Sweet of the state, have a meeting next week, Monday, the 28th, with all together to talk about the contract, whatever questions we had, and what do we do next? As far as, obviously, I got to bring that contract here, we got to approve it or not approve it. Where do we go from there?
Let's get some light reading.
Just a little like it. It's only like 24 pages.
24 pages, 10-point font, single spaced, real easy.
Right. How big deal? I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
I skimmed it.
Read it all. God, I forgot what was in the beginning.
I don't know. Yeah, you put you to bed at night.
So I'll send an email out again tomorrow though, and you know, anyone who wants to contact me, please. Actually, everybody affirmatively respond to me in the email if you're okay or you have no issues, just so that way I can be very confident everyone's on the same page.
What was the date of that email? You remember that?
Yeah. Let's see.
Going through it, fine.
Yeah, oh no, it was a while ago. It was before the last meeting. It was probably 3 weeks ago that it got
It's on
signed.
June 7th. So 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And we did get comments. Oh, no, that's the other project, the force main on Green Street. I was gonna say, oh, we got comments back from our insurance agent, but that's for the other project.
Great. I did send it to Brittany over at the county because she's been working with all these DRI private projects and all their contracts. So figure they may have some good comments. And Julie Sweet from the state, Department of State, wanted to be in on everything that we do, especially if it's tied to us spending money.
So
Anyway,
I remember looking this over, and I'm looking over it again, and it just seems like it's like the dummy copy, and like all the stuff isn't filled in.
Yeah, some of this stuff does still need to be filled in. Some of it is just because the dates for things, for example, aren't really known because they still have to do the whole design of it. So we don't have a construction schedule to put in place yet. So some of this is still going to be like TBD or undecided. We could try to knock that stuff out during the negotiation process with them, but then it locks us in one sense, to a time frame that may end up proving not workable. But yeah, Laura, that's exactly the type of question I want you guys to ask me.
Yeah, like the whole thing looked like it was blank, like definitely from the start.
Yeah, oh gosh, no, from section or articles 1 and like 2 are the basic background information for the project. That's the piece that does still need work. But that's going to be between Hunt and the DRI folks and the mayor, I think, as we try to finalize this, focus on the rest of it, which is like the meat and potatoes of what they're supposed to be doing, what you're paying for. You know, this is a stipulated sum agreement. It would be $400 and some odd thousand. However, the agreement allows them additional fees for additional services, and so we need to make sure that their basic scope, which is what you're paying a fixed cost for, actually includes all the things that you need it to include. Because we don't want them coming, 2 months into the project saying, oh, hey, we also need more money because of this thing. And all of you going, whoa, wait a second, that wasn't in it. And some of that's okay. I mean, you expect there to be additional fees potentially. That's why we build in a contingency to a project. But we just don't want any of it to be surprising to any of you folks.
Yeah, it seems like we've been through that once before.
or twice.
Well, and Ron, to that point, I mean, that's why it's important you folks really read it and understand, what do the reimbursable expenses say? And, if Hunt has said, I think, right, that they won't be charging you for mileage from travel from Elmira to Owego. So we need to make sure that the agreement actually says you're not paying for mileage. So it's just that type of thing, that level of review. I mean, these are really big contracts, they're really important, and it's important that you all as trustees, that you have your questions answered. So anyway, I'm just sending an email out. I'll attach it again. Everybody confirm to me, yep, no particular comments, or if you do have them, email them back to me, or let's have a phone call.
Yep.
Okay.
We have a meeting next Monday to hopefully get those answers, or at least give them the list of comments so they can get answers to us. That's my report. Last thing is public comment. Don't have any public left.
Anybody left?
All left.
Move to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
Have a good night, everybody.
Night, everybody.